Lena Dunham is opening up about the emotional and personal cost of creating and starring in Girls, the HBO series that launched her to fame in her mid-20s and made her a lightning rod in both television and cultural conversations. In a candid new interview, Dunham revealed that being at the center of the show during such formative years left her stunted in ways she didn't fully understand at the time. Dunham described the experience as living in a cocoon, explaining that the intensity of success, scrutiny, and pressure insulated her from a more typical process of growing up. "I didn't mature properly," she said. "I was in a cocoon made of work and attention. And then I emerged, and it was a painful metamorphosis." The Emmy-nominated series Girls, which aired from 2012 to 2017, followed the lives of four women navigating adulthood in New York City. It became known for its raw, unfiltered portrayal of millennial struggles and drew praise as well as criticism for its often divisive take on relationships, privilege, and feminism. Dunham served as the creator, writer, director, and star of the show, wearing multiple hats while also becoming a cultural figurehead, sometimes willingly, sometimes not. In the years since the show ended, Dunham has faced personal challenges, including serious health issues, a public breakup, and an evolving relationship with fame. But only now, she says, is she beginning to understand the emotional toll that early spotlight took. When you become famous for something that is so personal, you lose the ability to tell where the character ends and where you begin, she said. "I didn't have the tools to protect myself from that. I was still figuring out who I was, and the world had already decided." She recalled being only 23 when Girls was greenlit, and suddenly becoming not only a showrunner but a spokesperson for an entire generation of women. The pressure to constantly defend her creative choices, many of which were polarizing, left her in defensive mode that she now sees as emotionally damaging. "I was constantly reacting, constantly trying to prove I was smart enough, woke enough, worthy enough," she said. "And in that process, I wasn't really growing. I was stuck, emotionally." Dunham added that while she was proud of the work, she now sees how that period of her life was dominated by a kind of arrested development. Surrounded by people who relied on her for creative direction and working inside an insulated creative environment, she didn't develop the interpersonal skills or emotional boundaries she might have learned outside of that spotlight. "It felt like I was playing adult, but not actually living it," she said. Dunham also spoke about how the success of Girls distorted her understanding of relationships and self-worth. "I measured my value by the success of the show. When the applause was loud, I felt loved. When it wasn't, I felt worthless. That's not healthy for anyone, let alone someone still figuring themselves out." In recent years, Dunham has stepped back from the constant media presence that once defined her. She married musician Louis Felber in 2021 and has since relocated to the UK, where she says she's enjoying a quieter, more grounded life. Her most recent projects, such as the film Catherine Called Birdie, have been more modest in scale, and she's expressed relief at not being the constant center of conversation. "I've spent the last few years building myself up from scratch," she said. "There's grief in realizing you missed out on certain experiences because of fame, but there's also joy in realizing it's not too late." Dunham is now more reflective, more self-critical, but also more forgiving of herself. She acknowledges the controversies that surrounded her, ranging from representation issues to her often unfiltered public statements, but says that she's working to be more intentional and accountable. "I look back and cringe at things, of course," she admitted. "But I also see a young woman who was trying. And maybe she didn't always get it right, but she was honest. And that matters." When asked if she would ever revisit the world of Girls, Dunham was cautious. "Never say never, but I'd want it to be for the right reason, not because people are nostalgic, but because there's something new to say." For now, Dunham says she's focusing on writing, healing, and finding the adulthood she feels she postponed for so long. "There's power in growing up quietly, in living without explaining. I'm finally learning that."